our one and only distinguished Toastmaster Hashim Haleem to speak about the art of script writing for a winning speech. Welcome, Hashim bhai.
Thank you, Division O Director DTM Shanil. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session on the art of script writing for a winning speech. Now, first off, let me ask you all a question to start with. What do you think? Why do you think this session is called script writing? What's the difference between script writing and well, just writing out an essay or any normal writing that we do? I'd request you to probably put it into the chat if you can, and then we'll see what kind of responses we get. Or if you'd rather unmute, I think somebody's switched on their cameras. You can unmute and just shout out what you think is. Yeah, Sunita, I think you're raising your hand. Shiva says script writing is writing towards a specific topic. Okay, good start there, Shiva. Anyone else has any ideas? What's the difference between script writing and just normal writing or writing in
writing?
Yeah.
I think script writing would come with a lot of. It's a strategized writing. There has to be, like we know in a speech, the transitions. There has to be a connection to the points. The dots have to connect. You can't go past, come in front, and future, and all that. There has to be a proper way with that you write it out.
So a structure, a proper methodology is what Sunita is saying. Guest has said script writing is for a purpose. You're all going towards it. Okay. When we talk about script or script writing, the first thing that came to my mind was like movies and screenplay. This is the first thing that came to my mind when I hear the word script writing. So when you are writing for a speech that you're going to perform on a stage, basically what you're writing for is for the whole entire visual as well as audible experience for your audience, not just about what you write and what people read. They're going to see that on stage. They're going to experience that. So you're bringing the not only the whatever is happening in your script per se, but you're also bringing in the internal expressions of that person, the emotions that they're experiencing, the scenes that are playing out, and this has to be done by you on stage. So you're basically writing for both seeing, hearing, feeling, everything put together. So this is not for screen, but it's for a stage. So it's similar to writing a screenplay for a movie. So you're basically writing the screenplay for your speech. So things have to unfold in front of the audience on stage. And that's why calling it script writing is a step above just writing an essay or a piece or an article, right? So today we're going to focus on a little bit more on what differences we make in the way we write, the way we structure, the way we organize, the way we use our language in order to enhance our speeches for the stage. Now, this can be applied to any kind of speeches, any kind of presentations that you prepare. However, just to keep us focused, I'm going to take the examples of international speech and probably make it, let's say we're preparing an international speech for a contest. That's going to be our focused area. And we're going to focus on that and see how we can enhance the ideas that we have in order to make a winning, impactful visual experience for our audience on stage. All right, so let me just share my screen and we can get started immediately. So let's go to script writing. Let me share and let's go back right to the top. If I can. Yep, here we are. All right, thank you to the PR manager of the district for having put me 3 times on this flyer. Wonderful. All right, so the first thing, before we decide to write anything, we have to decide what we're going to write about. And this is a dilemma that we always face. Many people would ideally come up with this this crisis. Okay, what am I going to write about? What subject should I talk about? Will the audience like what I'm going to say, or is it just something I like? So simple technique. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because my focus is going to be on the writing part of it. But if you're going to select what you're going to write on, there are three things that you need to think about. The first one is the topics that you know that you're credible to speak about. Credibility is very important when you're talking about something, right? So what are you credible to speak about? Things that you've learned or things that you know about, like your work or your education. All of these are things that you already know about. Things that you've experienced by personal first-hand experience. These are things you know, you've been through, so you're credible to speak about that. The next thing is topics that you love. There are a lot of things that you're passionate about. You may be passionate about skydiving, for example, or football, or traveling the world. These are things that you may be passionate about, that you love. I am an IT consultant, so the things that come into my mind when you say topics you love are artificial intelligence, Java programming. Yeah, I can see people already running away from the Zoom call. No. Those are topics I love. Okay, so topics you know, topics you love. And the third important part is topics your audience would care about. So it's got to be of something of interest to them, something that adds value to them, something that's going to keep them on their seats for 7 minutes or 8 minutes, whatever time you take. And that is going to keep them attracted to your speech. So now we've got these three circles: topics you know, topics you love, and topics you think the audience would care about, where you're able to find a convergence, where all three, that you know about that topic, you love that topic as well, and you think the audience is going to care about it. These are your select topics that would be possible for you to write about. Now, let me give you an example. Topics that you know and topics that you love. Okay, for example, if we take the story of a long lost relative of yours who suffered from cancer, and your story is about how they came out of that. Now, the very fact that they overcame cancer may not be of interest to anybody else or to everybody for that matter. If you go very technical into it, they give all the medical background of it and all the things that happened from day 1 to day 52, that may not be of interest to people. But if you talk about the struggle and how they were able to come out of it and withstand it, the willpower that they had and the fight back that they gave, now that's a general topic. Now that could be something that your audience cares about as well, right? So it's about identifying the correct part of the story that you want to talk about. So the next time that you decide on topics, list down your topics, tick mark topics you know, topics you love, and topics your audience cares about. And where you have 3 ticks, that's probably where you would want to go for your topic selection. All right, so let's move on quickly. The first thing that you would think about in a topic is, what is the message that you want to give your audience? Because in the end, that's what the audience leaves your speech with. There's a saying which says that you start with the end in mind. So the end result of your speech is not the last line of the speech. No, the end result of your speech is what your audience leaves with. Once your 7.5 minutes or 7 minutes are over and they clap and they go back, what is it about your speech that they're going to remember, right? What's going to stay in their mind? That's the message of the core of that speech, right? Now, when you select a message for that speech, it has to be universal. It cannot be just for yourself. It cannot be particular to an area. It cannot be particular to a group of people. It cannot be particular to a genre or a specific profession or anything of that sort. It's got to be universal. Which is why if you look at many of the international winning speeches, their messages are general morals, usually. There's a moral associated with it. It adds value of some sort, right? The third important thing is it has to influence or change the way the audience think. You're not going to come up with something that nobody has heard of before as a message. It's always going to be something positive, something that's helpful, etc. It doesn't have to be something new, but your story should just give a different perspective of it, right? For example, let's look at, we had Ramona Smith with her boxing gloves, and she came up and gave a speech about still standing, means never give up. For sure, this isn't the first time you've heard a speech about never give up, but it could be the first time that you heard it the way that she presented it, right? That was the difference. It wasn't the message itself. The message was something you've heard before, but it was packaged and presented in such a way that it influenced the way that you think about it. So that's how you craft your message. But there's got to be something more to it, right? It can't be just this basic and simple, otherwise everybody would be acing it. Yes, when you talk about script writing, the secret part of every message that has been successful is to work hope into your message. Now, what is hope? Hope simply means that you present your message in such a way that it adds value to the audience, gives them the opportunity to apply your message and improve in some way or the other, or take things to the next level. That's what hope does. And this is across every single World Championship winning speech over the last, you can download for as many years as you want. You can go as far back as you want. It was always, always, always about hope. Many years ago, there was a great speaker called Mohammad Gehtani, for example. Not many years ago, but quite a few years ago, he had words have power. And what he spoke about was that by using your language, you're able to influence people or save people or create change. That's what words do. You had Dhananjay Hetirachi who said, I see something in you. His speech was that you are special. And if you have good people around you, they will make you feel special. So everyone is special. Ramona Smith still standing, never give up. That even if you have trouble after trouble in your life, you can still come out of it, right? You had so many, if you check any of those speakers who have spoken about Aaron Beverly's with the Indian wedding, the speech was despite differences, you can feel together. So he was giving hope of unity despite all the differences. So whatever their experience was, the message was crafted in such a way that it provided hope to the people. So the next time you decide to craft a message, work it in such a way that it gives hope. So what is the script writing difference between just having a message and having a message which gives hope? Now, let me give you an example here. If you want to say that I worked hard and I was able to achieve, success in my career. This is the crux of your story, and you are building stories to say how you struggled through tough times and you worked hard and you got that promotion and you were able to achieve everything that you wanted. This is your story. So your message is, I worked hard and I was able to achieve success. It's not a very fancy message, is it? So let's work hope into this, put it into the perspective of the audience and say, if you put everything into what you're doing, then anything is possible. Now, all of a sudden, a sentence which was very specific towards working hard and achieving success and doing things became a universal statement, which gives hope to whatever you're doing. So you put everything into it and anything is possible, right? So you work, when you craft your message, remember to work hope into it, and hope is universal, right? So that's how you craft a winning message. And a winning message is very critical for the success of your speech. Now, if you all remember, or for those who have been in the old path, where old competent communicator manual, wherein you had the project 3 which said specific and general purpose. The idea was, once you decide upon your message, then every part of your speech has to connect with that message. So it's important to work your message first, even before you start scripting your speech, right? So the secret is to work hope into your message, and then your message matters to everyone, right? All right, so let's move on quickly. Yeah. This is about the content that you're going to put into your speech once you've decided upon your message. Now, it's like a wonderful chocolate cake. All right. A chocolate cake is meant to make you happy. It's meant to satisfy your cravings, fill you up. But there is one definite thing, and you use it at all your celebrations. It brings up your feelings, makes you happy, enjoy. All of that happens when you have a wonderful chocolate cake. But there's one definite thing that a chocolate cake does. All the contents that you put into the chocolate cake, it makes you fat. That's exactly what it does. That's what your speech content has to do as well. But the fat here stands for feel, act, and think. when you decide upon what content has to go into your speech, you need to answer these three questions. Through your speech, what do you want the audience to feel? So what emotions are you trying to touch? Okay. So for example, if you have, let us talk about a speech where your simple theme is that time is precious. So you want to use it to spend it with your loved ones. You have a story which talks about, how you used to spend a lot of time with your grandma when you were a kid, but now after you've started working, you left the country, you left your hometown, and you've moved out here to the UAE. You don't get time to spend with them, and okay, whatever it may be. Picture this. What do you want your audience to feel? You want them to feel that they're missing some people. You want them to feel that they could be with their loved ones. You want them to feel that emotion. So be clear about 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is what I want my audience to feel. Second point, act. We all talk about call to action has to be there. Call to action has to be there. What exactly is this call to action? It means once that speech is done, what do you want your audience to do? So in the example that I just gave you about spending time with your loved ones, the action you want them to take is maybe, meet up with their loved ones, or take the time to call their, long lost friends, or their teacher from high school, or their neighbors who they have not spoken to, or some relatives who have been estranged for many years, or just go back and visit them and spend time with them. That's the action you want them to take. So be clear about what exactly do you want. So, and then you strategize your points such that it leads to this action. The last one is think. What is this change that you want to bring into their mindset? What is the thought that you want to put into their head through your message? In this case, it would be that their time is better spent with their loved ones than while away doing many other things. So they need to take out the time and spend time with their loved ones. That's time is precious. You don't get it back again. So use the time to spend. This is the thought that you want to put into their head. So when you decide upon, when you've got your message crafted out, remember these 3 points: the fact, feel, act, and think. What do you want them to feel? What action do you want them to take? What is the thought that you're putting into their head? And once you have clarity around this, then automatically you know which stories you want to put, you know which quotation will support you, you know how the points are to be structured, and have a good idea of now what your flow of your speech looks like. Are we ready to start writing the speech yet? Not yet. See, you've got your feel, act, think, you have an idea. Now you've got to put it all down. And my suggestion of how you're going to put it all down or visualize all of this is to create something known as a storyboard. It's a simple technique that you can use. Just put down everything that you've thought of so far. This is my message. Okay, I need something for the opening and closing. We'll come back to that later. Fair enough. What are my points? My points are point 1 and point 2. I'm going to support point 1 with this story. So in the example that we had spoken about earlier, my message is that time is precious and needs to be spent with your loved ones. That's my message. My point 1 is time once gone, you may not get again. So I have a story about my grandmother who died a couple of years ago. This was that. And then my transition. Next one is I'm going to talk about the time when I was so busy with work that I could not come home when, for a birthday party, and I missed that because I had a deadline to meet. Now that birthday party is never going to come again. So again, this is my point 2, that you don't replace it with other things which seem more materialistic, etc. So I have point 1, point 2. I know which story I'm going to put into it. What are my transition statements going to be? I want to put a quotation for that. Time and tide waits for no man. I'm going to put a call to action there. Use the time to spend with your loved ones. Call your grandparents today. Send a mail out to your long lost friend, etc. So I'm going to put all of this down into a storyboard before I start writing, and then I'm going to start filling these in. This is how a storyboard will help you decide upon exactly how to craft your script, so that you know exactly what you're going to put in there. Then it's just a matter of elaboration, cutting, and bringing it back down to size. This is a mind map. As you can see, there are many free tools that are available online that you can use. The one that I've made this with is a free tool called mindmup.com, MINDMUP. If you have a Google Drive, it's free to use, and you can create as many maps as you want and store it. It's a free tool that you can use. Do try it out. It's a very useful to visualize your ideas and put things into perspective. All right, very quickly, let's move on. Now, we spoke about stories, and from time immemorial, stories have been the way that messages have been shared. Whenever any news of any land or any war or any country was communicated, it was always communicated through stories. When we were kids, we had our grandparents and our folks tell us stories about kings and queens. But do you all remember what the purpose of those stories was? It was never the king or the queen or what happened there. The whole purpose of that story was to make a point, to put that moral into the kid. That's why those stories were told. We always knew that, right? So the best way to convey a point is to tell a story. And that's exactly what you should employ in your international speeches as well. Decide upon what your point is, tell a story to support that point, which makes it clear for the audience. And when they remember your story, what are they remembering? They're remembering your point. That's exactly what the purpose is. Believe me, stories are the best, irrespective of which age, what age your audience is in. You've heard your kids, if you've been around kids, they always, in the night, it's always, Daddy, can you tell me a story? No kid ever came up to you and said, Daddy, can you show me a PowerPoint? No, it's always been, can you tell me a story? So stories are the best way to make a point. Now, those stories which you heard when you were a kid, they always had kings, queens, powerful soldiers, powerful people, or very pious and very respectable people. They always had characters who were brought to life. And those characters form the pillars of those stories, right? So you had characters to remember. In your story, in your speech, to remember to describe your characters, the characteristics of that character. What was he like? What did he speak like? What was special about him? This has been always there. Now let's look at our dear friend or respectable Toastmaster, Dhananjay Hettiarachchi, the world champion who gave the speech, I see something in you. If you remember his speech, he had his emotional mother, right? She was so emotional. She was shaking the cage of the cell in the jail. Even the police, even the cops were afraid of her. And he had the cool dad. It wasn't just dad. He had the cool dad. And then he had that the accountant Sam. He looked like a teddy bear. And then he had the gentle person at the back of the Toastmasters Club, who had that. There was something special about him. So all of these characters, it wasn't just telling a name or putting a person there. There was something describing that character. There was, and when you bring characters into your speech, you not only use description, but when you give them a voice, when you give them an expression, a gesture, and when you give them dialogue, you bring in your vocal variety, you bring in your facial expressions. When you give them a position on stage, you're using the stage wisely, you're creating a halo effect there. So adding characters to your speech gives you ample opportunity to express your skills, express emotions, and bring out the range or the repertoire of skills that you have as a public speaker. So definitely remember that in your story, there should be characters and there should be brought to life. So what are the words in your speech that are going to allow you to bring that character to life? Are you giving him or her dialogues? Are you using descriptive language to show or portray what that person looks like, what that person's role is, importance is? And are you using their vocal variety and expressions to bring emotions to that particular moment of that speech? Right? Also, when you script your speech, remember to incorporate all of these so that you're able to bring that character to life. The third thing about characters and stories is always be similar, not superior to the audience. Let me tell you this. Now, if you tell a story where, okay, when I was a kid, I came first in class, I was the winner of the 100-meter race, I got a gold medal in school, I got a gold medal in university, I was earning this many thousand dirhams, I bought a BMW car, and I have 3 cars in my garage. Nobody's going to like your story. Right? If you're going to just beat your own horn or blow your own horn rather, nobody is going to like your story. You want to be similar. So I went through this problem, and with the help of these, I was able to come out of it. Then people will listen to your story, right? It's like when you were back in school, There was always that kid who sat in the middle of the front row, who was a teacher's pet and scored 100 marks in every subject. I always had the answer to every question. All the teachers loved him. You remember that kid? Nobody liked that kid. Yeah, he was a kid who never got a girlfriend. All the girls used to speak to the boys at the back bench, and the same for the girls at the back bench. Right? Nobody liked that kid because everyone likes people who are similar, not superior. What that means is, don't be the hero of your own story. Yes, you succeeded, but you succeeded because a change happened at a time when there was a cure, and you found that cure either through speaking to somebody else or reading something or an experience that you had. So give the credit to that particular moment, whoever that was. Maybe that other person you spoke to who advised you, maybe the book you read, maybe the movie you saw, maybe an experience you had. Give credit to them. You be the one who changed. You be the one who was down and who was able to come up with that change, right? So you don't be the hero of your own story. Always give the credit to where it's due, and you be the one who has benefited from that and share that benefit with your audience. That's how you connect with your audience. Yeah, but Hashim, is creating a story that simple? It is, and I'm going to give you a model that you can apply for any story that you're ever going to write. Trust me, it works. It's called the 5C storytelling model, right? And every story that you would see, you can actually take up any speech from YouTube of Toastmasters and see it. Every story will have these 5Cs, even if it's a 3-sentence story or a 1 minute, 2 minute story, right? The 5Cs are: one is curiosity. What curiosity means is you have a few sentences which are bringing your audience into that particular story. We touched up upon the second C, which is characters. Every story has characters, at least one character, and yourself, so that will make it 2. Then there is a conflict. What I mean by conflict is that you have some trouble or some difficulty that you're going through. If there is no difficulty, there's no purpose in telling this, right? Because like we said, the message is about hope. So there has to be a difficulty which you're overcoming, and that's the message you're giving. With this, you can overcome this, follow this, then you will be able to overcome it yourself as well. So the conflict, and as you can see, I put the conflict on an arrow which is going up. So ideally, you would start by introducing the conflict and then build it up to a point where it's very difficult. Then there is a cure. And like I said, you're not the hero. So the cure came from either somebody who advised you, somebody who helped you, maybe a book you read, maybe whatever, something that you saw, something that you read, or an experience that happened at that point of time. There is a cure, and after the cure, there is a change. And this change helps you move forward in your life. So some sentences to show how you changed. It's very important when it comes to how your speech gets judged or evaluated. Show the change that happened because of this particular turning point. The cure is your turning point. After that, what you do in your life is your change. And make sure you give examples of your change. So the 5 C's, just to recap: curiosity, characters, conflict, cure, and change. And these are part of every story that you see. So definitely try to include these in your upcoming speech. Right? So when you script it, make sure you have sentences for each of these. It does not have to be separate sentences. It could be just one flow. Your whole speech could be done in 3 sentences or 2 minutes. That's completely up to you. Right?